Hello, men, and welcome to the podcast, Messages for Men. This podcast is designed for men, about men, and maybe some ways we can do things and be a little better. My name is Brad Dombal. I'm the host, and I'm really honored today to have my friend Craig Glass as our guest. Craig's been working with guys for about 35 years?
That's about right, 35, yeah.
Impressive. So I just want to kind of read your bio so people know a little bit more about you. Craig Glass has served as Vice President of Ministries at International Teams Ministry Agency for 20 years, pastor to men at Willow Creek Community Church for 4 years, and National Director of Field Ministries at International Studies Incorporated for 3 years. Since 2002, he has served as founder and president of Peregrine Ministries with the mission to guide and inspire men on their life journey.
Yes.
That's when I began to know you.
Yeah, that's when we met.
Yeah, that's great. He is the author, congratulations, by the way, of Passages of Manhood, Field Guide, and Noble Journey, A Man's Quest for Lasting Legacy. Craig and Beryl are married in 1976, have 6 children, 3 by marriage, 6 grandchildren, and live in Monument, Colorado. In his free time, Craig enjoys biking, golf, fly fishing, and swimming. And by the way, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Craig's birthday.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted you on here is because you have so much in depth and experience with men and men's issues. And I can remember as a table leader in a group, some of the stuff that we talked about was really profound. And I want to compliment you. There's a couple of things you did really well: guilt, shame, and father wounds.
Wow.
I still remember them.
Yeah.
That powerful.
I'm impressed. They stand out.
Oh, they do. And that one did. But anyway, I'm glad to have you here because the topic today, which is going to be interesting and maybe somewhat controversial for some people, is the difference between, let's say, good men and nice guys. Yeah. So dealing with men as long as you have in your mind, Craig, first of all, is there a difference? And if there is a difference, how do you see the difference between a nice guy and a good man?
Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Brad, and I'm honored to be here. Yes, there's a difference, in my opinion. Nice guys. I grew up being raised and told, Craig, be a nice boy. Be nice. And so my goal was to move on to becoming a nice guy. And maybe someday I'll be a nice man. But the adjective is be nice. And I thought that was something to aspire to. And I don't want to knock it that much, but I would say there is a difference between being nice and being good. To me, as I look back now, I feel like nice was much more being passive and agreeable and get along with everybody. Don't rock the boat. Don't be controversial. And so, honestly, part of my reaction to that was don't speak up that much unless you know everybody's going to agree. Particularly if I'm in a setting with my parents, my dad in particular, who was a very, very strong role model for me. If I'm in a group of men, women, or whatever in front of him, I want to reflect well on him. Be nice. Don't say anything controversial.
Yeah.
And so that's what it felt like for me as the thing to aspire to, Brad, was to be nice. But in years later, I've looked back and realized, no, that's not what I want to be. I don't want to just be nice. I do want to move into being a good man.
Sure. So would you say, which I probably think is true, and that is nice guys kind of have a fear basis?
Yes, I would say so. I think a lot of it is, like I sort of already implied, a lot of it is based on what would people think? Mm-hmm. How are people viewing me? Am I being watched favorably or am I upsetting anybody? What would people think? And I have to say again that voices from my parents and from my mom, I remember a lot of fantastic voices and messages from them over the years. But one of the strong messages from my mom in particular really emphasized what would people think.
So when you talk to men about this subject or men talk to you about issues, how much of it is based in childhood? How much of their trauma issues, the problems that they have, and even as they become older men, how much of it is based because of problems they never resolved when they were younger?
Yeah. I've learned an enormous amount. I didn't start out in this field, really. I started out studying pre-med. That's the direction I thought I was going to go out of school.
Right.
And my wife and I just happened, so to speak, to get involved in an international adventure kind of ministry. And through that experience, that was for 20 years, we learned how profoundly important the influence of the father is on people that we worked with as adults, young adults.
Right.
Profoundly important to find out their father's story. I would ask all the time with a guy I met, and these were teams, people leading teams, living internationally and working internationally. If the team leader himself is angry and controlling and has a hot temper, and he's ramrodding everybody else that he works with on the team, including his wife and kids, I want to have a conversation with him. And the question is going to be, Bob, tell me about you and your dad. Tell me about your dad. And you're going to find the clue 90% of the time. You're going to find the clue. Or if it's not always guys, and it's not always anger. It's poor self-esteem, let's say. Or a young woman who clearly has a personality that's in a shell, and she's walking around feeling like she's on eggshells. She's closed. She's not open with who in the world she is as a personality. Just have a conversation. Tell me about you and your dad. That's not to negate the impact of mothers at all. So profoundly important. But I will say, directly in answer to your question, Brad, with men I've worked with over 35 years, and honestly, in mixed settings for 50 years, the father is profoundly important, both for blessing or for destruction.
I happen to like to talk to a lot of young men if I can. And there's a couple that I've worked specifically with. But when you look at nice guys, there's a couple things I've seen. First of all, they are very much people pleasers.
Yeah.
Right? What you pointed out, they're very concerned about other people think.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they agree with everybody around them. They don't want to cause conflict. They don't want to rock the boat,
Right.
type of thing.
Right.
But these are men that really don't have a stance, don't have a position, and I don't think that's very masculine and really what the feminine wants from men. But I think this is born. A lot of it is born out of insecurity, and a lot of it is born in childhood. You talked a little bit about yours. I can say, for example, when you look at the limbic system, we've got a couple things going on. When you look at stress and trauma, we've got fight or flight, which you've heard of, I'm sure.
Sure.
We also have something called fawn or freeze. What I did growing up, I was a fawner.
Wow.
What I mean by that is that I had to make sure my dad was okay as a fawner. Okay. I fawned around that. If dad was okay, I was going to be okay. Because love for me meant I had to earn it. I had to do something to earn love. Right? And there was an expectation of that.
Yes.
So once again, I felt safe. I felt secure.
Yeah.
As long as dad was okay and he was in a good position. But if he wasn't, then I felt like there was trouble for me.
It's going to be consequences.
There absolutely was.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't, as a boy, you kind of look at it as, what do I need to be safe in my mind? Because remember, your mind's not so much worried about whether you're doing something healthy. The mind worries about and thinks about patterns. It thinks about where have we been before?
Yeah.
And what is safe? What is home?
Yeah.
And so even in my relationship sometimes, I can see where I've been a nice guy because I revert to that subconsciously because I understand that's safe.
Yeah, I get that.
That's home.
And what that brings to the surface in my story, Brad, is thinking about my dad in particular. I would say for sure I wanted to please him and I wanted to reflect well on him. For me, it was not about being safe. I knew I was safe. I wanted him to be proud of me.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's another thing.
Yeah.
I want him to be proud. Mom, too.
Right.
That was what was beneath the surface for me to make sure, Craig, you're a nice guy.
Right.
And that changed over time. I realized over time there is a difference between being nice and being good.
Okay.
First of all, to relate back to a story in our nation's history, the shooting of kids at Sandy Hook School in Connecticut. however many years ago that was, 15 maybe, something like that. The slaughter of 20 kids and a couple of teachers by a guy, beyond description. The next day I was in the car listening to the radio, and I had it on to a guy, his name's Dennis Prager. He's
PragerU.
Yeah, PragerU. And I was listening to it. He often has great, great insights. I don't always agree with everything he says, but nobody agrees with everything I say. He's very insightful, and he made a statement that really jumped out at me. And he said, the most important question for every society to answer is, how do we build good men? I get chills right now as I say that, and this happened, let's say, 15 years ago. It's so profound. My immediate reaction was, well, wait a minute, that sounds important. I kind of agree, but what about women? We got to build good women too. And as I thought about it, honestly, I turned off the radio just to let this sink in and process. As I thought about it, I realized he's not saying men are more important than women, so we got to build good men. No, he's not saying that at all. And that's my view too, is men and women are equally valued, equally wonderful.
Right.
Equally so.
Right.
Yet different in some pretty obvious ways. And one of the obvious ways with men is the difference between good men who have the benefit of others in mind in their lives and men who are self-absorbed, angry, and destructive. The difference between those two is vast. It's incredibly huge. Sure, there are good women and broken women. Sure, there are. But we don't see the kind of violence coming from broken women like bad men.
Yeah.
That's what stood out to me. He's right. He's right. We have to find ways of building good men, not just nice guys who are willing to get along, but good men who will step up and take action.
You know, Craig, I spent a little time talking about and trying to discover the differences. I talk to young men about nice guys and good men. And one of the things that, I don't know if you ever read the book in 2022 by Richard Reeves.
Okay, I don't
It's
think
called
so.
Men and Boys.
No.
But in there, he talked about the failing of young men and boys in society today and what's going wrong.
Yeah.
And one of the things he mentioned, and he really pounded home on, I thought, in terms of building young men and men today, is the absence of fathers in the home.
Yeah.
It is absolutely devastating how many young men, boys,
Yes.
grow up without a father in the home.
Yeah.
And he talks statistically about what this means in terms of violence, grades.
Incarceration.
Incarceration is huge in terms of violence to women and all this when we don't see a father in the home.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I know we're talking about good men. Good men don't do those things. I think good men, like I said, have to stand in the gap, have to be active, have to take a role, have to be leadership, have to show confidence in what's, you know, in their own environment. But as I see it, many men struggle with the, I would call nice guy syndrome.
Yeah.
And especially, Craig, in what I would consider, when I've talked to young men, in romantic relationships with women, that it becomes very profound at that point. I mean, you can have it, nice guys can fall into certain patterns with family and even with their bros, but with women, it becomes even highlighted and even more dramatic.
Yeah. You're going in the direction I live and I believe and I teach for years and years, Brad. I think that the quintessential failure or weakness, let's call it, for men, quintessential weakness for men, two of them, silence and passivity. That's being a nice guy. I think the healing approach is to be active and speak up. I think that's what it looks like, and the world needs masculinity to look like, is to be engaged, express your opinion, and take action. The world needs men like that, good men. That's good men. Again, another difference between nice guys and good men. We said passive and active, spineless and backbone.
Right.
There's a backbone. When you find a good man who knows what he believes in, and He has the interests of other people in mind. That takes backbone.
I think that's really key there, Craig. You said some, good men are not men without compassion.
Absolutely not.
They're not men without loving their family, their spouses, their kids around them.
Yeah.
They can still be kind men. But I think the difference is good men have boundaries. What I mean, but I don't mean boundaries in terms of walls that we build around us.
Right.
I look at it as a door. It's a door where these boundaries, you determine who you're going to let in. And also sometimes, Craig, who you need to let out.
Yeah.
So you establish what I will stand for, what I'm about. Yeah. These are my values. These are my boundaries. Yeah. This is the character I present. And I'm going to represent this day in and day out. Mm-hmm. Nice men, on the other hand, nice guys, on the other hand, struggle with boundaries because I want to please you.
Yeah.
I want to please a woman.
Yeah.
Because many times it's actually manipulation, Craig. And I'll explain why. Because when you, as a nice guy, consistently want to please somebody, you expect something in return. Mm-hmm. Good men don't. Mm-hmm. They give from their heart knowing that there may be nothing in return, and they're good with that. Yeah. That's okay by them.
Yeah.
Nice men don't, because they operate about insecurity, and they operate about the need to get validation, to be applauded and recognized by the outside world.
Yeah.
And they do things in order to receive that.
How am I doing here? What is she thinking about me? What does my boss think about me? How is this going? Somebody just give me some clues. That's the guy I'll be. That is not a good, confident man.
Well, I think that when you talk about nice guys and seeking validation, I think what men miss, especially nice guys miss, is that what is validation? Validation is you, for example, having a projection of what you want me to be, how you want me to look, how you want me to think, how you want me to talk, how you want me to be. And I do that, and you provide validation for that. You applaud me for that. So what do I do as a nice guy?
Hang around.
Oh, I want more of that.
Yes.
How do I get more of that?
Give me more of this guy.
Exactly. I'm thirsty for all I can get of that.
Yeah.
Right? Good men look at it this way and say, I appreciate the validation. It's nice, but I do understand that's projected on me because of what you believe and you want me to be. And they understand too that criticism comes about when your projection of me, what you want me to be, doesn't always fall in line. Mm-hmm. And I may get criticized for that. Yeah. But good men say, that's okay.
So your comments reminded me of when I first started to be aware of some of these things between being nice and being good. It was showing up in my kids. I noticed it in particular with our daughter, first child, wonderful woman, mother, strong-willed child. You would think she had a pretty strong personality. She seems to. However, we noticed that she was frequently nervous going to school, wondering how were other kids going to treat her? How am I going to do? Is Marina going to be happy with me today, or is she going to be my enemy talking behind my back? Yeah. And I think a lot of kids in middle school carry this. A lot of them do. Yeah. But we noticed it and just tried to help her understand, sweetheart, your job, your life is not to make sure Marina's happy. No, your job is to be who you are, who you were created to be, and live that out. Marina kind of go with it or not. Right. But I had to admit and acknowledge, I know where she got that. I know where it came from. I laid it in her lap unintentionally because that was a quality that I experienced over time. As a young guy or as a teenager. Yeah. What would people think thing.
I wonder with my kids sometimes what damage I've done as well. Because, we kind of pass along, for lack of a better term, the sins of the father. And we, and it's like, how much damage have I done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, you mentioned that was a significant learning point for me, going all the way back to that international ministry thing I talked about, the first 20 years that Burl and I were married. We were noticing how the impact of the father got laid in the laps of their kids after them. As I mentioned, ask them about your dad. I had to look in the mirror at me first. Yeah, what in the world am I passing on that is unintentional. I might even be unaware of it and blind to it, but I'm passing it on. That is, that's not lifting them up. It's not allowing them to have the freedom and space to be who they are. It's make sure you behave for Dad.
Yeah.
Turn out the lights. Get the Hot Wheels out of the driveway, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
No, I get it. One of the things I think that nice guys don't realize is when they fall in this pattern of pleasing all the time, they actually self-sabotage themselves. Because when you make yourself pleasing to your father, for example, or you're constantly available for a woman because she wants you to be that way, or you're constantly available for your boss, or you're trying to please your friends in your friend group constantly, you're worrying about their needs.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
And the question you have to ask yourself, which I notice a lot of nice guys can't answer, is what are your needs? What do you need? What do you need from people? What do you need from your spouse? What do you need from friendship? What do you need from your family?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do
because
other people want from me?
Exactly, because I've been so worried about what everybody else wants and making sure everybody else happen.
Yeah.
But once again, Craig, you self-sabotage yourself, your needs, your desires, your goals, and your passions when you.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to share with the audience here who's listening a framework that really helped me a number of years ago to really get a grip on what I think are qualities of what good men look like.
Okay.
What does a good man look like? And they go back to the framework of one way of looking at our design and our makeup, mentally, psychologically, whatever. There are different ways of approaching that, but one of them is heart, soul, mind, strength.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah. We got those 4 qualities. Whether we know it or not, we all have heart, emotions, soul, our spirit, mind, intellect, and strength. Our physicality, all of those things. Maybe there's a few others, but those 4 are a pretty good starting point.
Right.
And as I've thought about and worked on and read and talked with other men about what does it look like when you're a good man in each one of those quadrants,
Okay. Yeah.
I came up with a quality. When we really live our lives well, in a healthy way, from our heart, compassion. You said that a couple of minutes ago.
Right.
It's a shocker for a lot of men when I say this. Compassion, isn't that a little squishy? Isn't that kind of pretty much feminine?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. You meet a guy who's strong and brave in every way that many masculine guys like to be, who's also compassionate. It's powerful. It's very powerful. So that's the first one. Out of our heart, being compassionate. Out of our soul, confident. Confident that we are designed in such a way that we have purpose and significance. Not confident I got an awesome car or a trophy wife or the best office imaginable. No, not that kind of confidence. That stuff fades away. Confident in who I am. I do have significance and purpose and identity. That kind of confidence comes out of the soul, in my opinion.
Okay.
Mind, up here, conviction. We experience life, we gain wisdom, and we develop values and convictions. We believe stuff, and we live our lives that way. I just love that so much. I think it's such a core quality when you find men and women who have convictions, and they're not hammering you on the head about it. They're not bragging about it necessarily. They're also not ashamed of it.
Right.
They're willing to let you know, this is where I stand.
Yeah.
And then that last one, strength, courage. Courage not being the absence of fear. I'm never afraid. That's not true. We're often afraid. The willingness to enter fear and take action anyway. That's courage.
Sure.
Compassion, confidence, conviction, and courage. I think that's what it looks like to be a good man.
You know, it's interesting because I've thought about it too. And I love those. And I remember those from your teaching days.
Yeah.
When I've looked at it, I kind of came up with a little bit different, but it's so many similarities. Number one was confidence, like you said.
Okay.
The second one I had was accountability and authenticity, where you hold yourself accountable for your actions. You're not afraid to say, yeah, that didn't go well. Kind of screwed that up.
Right.
I think real men are able to do that
Yes.
instead of blaming others and pointing the finger at somebody else.
Yes. Take a,
I think a big one for men too is discipline.
mm,
Having the discipline to do what's right, to do what's necessary when it's necessary. I think
right. Well
I think Jordan Peterson said it best when it said men have to understand when it's time to unsheath the sword. You know, and understanding the strength in that and when to do that. And the last one to me, believe it or not, is compassion.
Good.
Once again,
Glad you discovered
knowing
that.
that you can give to others, love others, be compassionate for others, and doing it in a way that it's not about you. One of the I guess characteristics of a real man that I love and I see is a man who does things for other people, and you would never know it. That speaks volumes to me. Versus
Yes.
a man that says, "Well, I gave to this, I did that, and then
Make sure you get some credit.
look at me. You know, I did it for some credit. I got to get some validation here. Otherwise, it's not worth my time."
Why bother?
Real men don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's right. How come? They're safe and they're confident. They know who they are and they're not acting for the attaboys.
Yeah.
They will act that way anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. A quote, there's an author that I just really enjoy a lot, Patrick Lencioni, businessman. There's a couple of quotes I've grabbed for pretty much the rest of my life. Here's one of them. Don't just give people rules to follow. Give them values to believe in.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. I heard that. I wrote that down. That was the cost of this session, which I didn't pay for anyway. That was the takeaway. Right. I love that.
Sure.
As a businessman, as a foreman on the job, as a father, as a guy in the HOA board in the community, or somebody leading something or other at church, don't just give people rules to follow. Why? First of all, it's endless. There's an infinite number of rules we could come up with. Secondly, they're just behaving. They're just doing what the rule says.
Right.
Give them values to believe in. Again, why? Because all you need is just a small handful. As a business leader, I know you had values and everybody else knew what they were, even from the outside looking in, Brad.
Yeah.
As a father, what if you just give your kids, rather than 27 rules to follow, and I'm paying attention? Hey, in our family, here's what the Miller family stands for. This is what we believe in: integrity, humility, compassion, community, and whatever. Here are the rules, kids. These are the values, not the rules. The values we believe in. You can stand on these. Once you know those, all the rules come into place.
Yeah, they'll define their own rules.
You live it out.
Exactly the values.
It's not just behavior to make sure dad's happy. It's you live it out. I just love that. And I think that's what's true about good men. You're living out what you believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit, if you don't mind for a second, because I think many men will appreciate that. I was talking with a young man who went through a divorce. And after the divorce, he and I sat down several times and talked about what went wrong. We actually used the word a nice guy versus a good man.
Okay.
Where was he a nice guy versus a good man? If I just take a second to kind of highlight some of those, because when you look at a romantic relationship with women, I think this is even more profound when you look at nice guys versus good men.
Okay.
For example, he met his wife-to-be at a college university. There was an attraction there.
Yeah.
There was some form of limerence in the sense that they had dopamine and oxytocin and all the love and great feelings that they had, right? And they were for each other. And this went on until eventually they ended up getting engaged and getting married. But what he said to me along the way, he said, "Brad, I loved the validation. I love the attention. I love the applause. I did whatever I could, whatever she wanted me to do in order to get more of that."
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That
a
was
little bit
so
addictive, isn't it?
It was. It's like a drug in a sense.
Yeah.
But he said, I saw some red flags, and I wasn't, I guess, a good man in the sense that I could step back and say, this may not last forever.
Yeah.
This is wonderful, but do understand That's not life. We don't sit around all day long in marriage and just worship one another. So he said, I acted like, I would say, kind of a nice guy in that regard instead of a good man.
Yeah.
As the relationship moved on, Craig, it was interesting how over time she began to be more critical of him. Okay. And
Right.
criticize things he would do, even the smallest of things.
Yeah.
Where to the point where he began to feel somewhat devalued at times. He just didn't feel, he just felt disrespected. And that's one thing about men who are nice guys.
Yeah.
They lose self-respect within themselves. So he felt like the relationship wasn't going in the direction he wanted it to.
Yeah.
So I asked him at that point, I said, why is that? And he said, well, I discovered that she had issues in her family. Came from a very religious
Go figure.
family. There was
Way
a lot
more.
of trauma in that. She felt comfortable and wanted more space. She wanted more independence, highly critical, like I said, of him. And the closer he drew to her, the further she ran from him.
Wow.
Because he was a type of person that needed that type of intimacy and closeness. But anyway, to make a long story short, they had a conversation about it. And unfortunately, as a nice guy, he approached it and said, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And her response is, well, you're mansplaining me.
Okay.
You are, is a type of thing where I don't feel safe now because I feel like you're attacking me. You're triggering me.
Yeah.
I have to walk on eggshells around you now because of what you've said and how you said this. And it ended up, as a nice guy, Craig, he ended up apologizing to her. Although he's bringing his heart to her and saying, these are some things that really hurt. So at that point, he said, how should have a good man responded to that?
Good question.
Well, and I said to him, simply, you're going to have to own that and look at her in the eye and say, I'm not tolerating this anymore. This is what's going on. Don't bullshit me. This is what's going on. This is the behavior you're exhibiting. We have to fix this. Or it's not going to be healthy for either one of us.
Wow.
He didn't do that. He let it go on and he chased more. He gave more presence and more time and more of himself and energy, thinking that this would fix everything. A nice guy does that.
Sooner or later, it's going to be enough. It's not.
Sooner or later, because of what I'm doing, she's going to love me more,
Yeah.
by God, because of all I'm doing for her.
Yeah.
It didn't work, Craig. And through, I guess, the devaluation and everything that went on, eventually she got where she dismissed him and kind of kicked him to the curb, unfortunately, wanted a divorce and, broke his heart. But even then, as a nice guy, he's begging, he's pleading with her at the end of the day, please, let's not do this. Let's work this out and things like that. So I will say one thing, and what he's learned and what, we've talked about is that good men don't beg. Good men don't chase and good men don't plead. Because if that relationship wasn't going to work, chasing, pleading, and begging wasn't going to.
It's going to be endless.
It wasn't going to.
It's
It
gonna
wasn't.
keep on
It
going.
wasn't going to get there.
Yeah.
So he felt in the regards he lost self-respect for himself. He lost some dignity in himself. Lost who he was to a certain degree. Actually had to go to therapy for over a year to kind of figure out what was wrong with him because I wasn't good enough. How did this fail? How is this my fault?
Yeah.
There was no ownership on her part, unfortunately. And it's interesting, she got to the point where she flipped on him. What I mean by that is now he became a narcissist. He was an awful man. He was an awful person. And this is the narrative that she created after the divorce. So all I'm trying to say is that we as men have to understand, even in romantic relationships, how to behave as a nice guy versus a good man and understand the difference in what that does.
And that's such a profound story. It's so deep. I'm sure the number of men are countless who've experienced that, and flip side it, and women who have experienced something very similar on their end. Let's be honest,
absolutely.
of course.
Yeah.
But I love how you made sure to bring up the word compassion. I think it's very, very important to be able to say that being good and standing your ground and not living your life so that other people are happy about you. Mm-hmm. That's not compassion. That's not the same as compassion. Right. That's weak-willed.
Yeah.
Compassion is, again, it's powerful and it's directed for the benefit of the other.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll say, and your story just reminds me of the second quote from Patrick Lencioni that's on my mind. If you want to know what your values are, pay attention to what you're willing to get punished for.
Well, that's a great one.
Wow. If you want to know what you really believe, the ground that you stand on, just pay attention to where you're willing to say, I know what you want me to do, Mr. Smith, my boss, is this. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I'm not going there.
Yeah.
This is the ground I stand on, come what may.
Right.
That reveals what you're willing to get punished for or suffer some consequences for, reveals what you really believe. And it doesn't always mean you just give in. No, you stand. There's a backbone.
Yeah, and for many men that can be difficult. But I look at that in the same context as having boundaries of what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not willing to tolerate as a man.
Yes, that's right. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think Craig, I think the world needs more good men. And if you're a nice guy, I think we have to figure out ways to become better men and good men. Because if you really want a fulfilling relationship with friends, with family, with colleagues, with in this case, with women, you have to learn to protect your heart as well as serve the heart of others.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to say, I'm here because I want to help fulfill your needs, but my needs are important as well. And so in this relationship, it has to be two-way.
I'll be better for you
Yeah,
when my needs are met as well.
absolutely.
I'll be healthier for you.
And I don't know if those discussions are happening. And I also see what I've experienced with men so far is that so much of it ties back into childhood wounds that men have never taken the time to delve into, dig into, and talk about.
That's right.
And figure out ways that, they can heal those wounds.
Yeah. I have a metaphor, exactly what you're talking about, childhood wounds. If you don't mind, I'll share.
Sure.
A metaphor, when I meet a guy, and I don't know him that well, but I can sense high performance driven by something or other, or shame, or anger, or a lot of control, or whatever it is. When I sense that over a cup of coffee or a meal or a couple of sessions together talking to a guy, whatever it is, the metaphor that comes to my mind is during childhood, he and his family, his parents were building his home. I don't mean the household of his family. I mean his structure, his home structure of who he is. Right. And it's like, as is the case with, unfortunately, a lot of kids growing up, there's some damage done, frequently from the hands of the father, who's unhealthy himself, by the way, but frequently from the hands of the father, sometimes also from the hands of the mother. It's like, as the superstructure of his home was being built, there was a destructive fire in the basement, and it burned the joists and all the cross beams and stuff like that, burned the foundation. Yeah. But rather than really clear it out and getting restoration, just keep building the superstructure. Cover it up, put on some plaster, some drywall, whatever it is. Get a fancier roof on top of that thing.
Emotionally suppress it.
Yes, just cover it up. And what I like to say about guys like that, and I have said it to a couple of guys who were willing to let me speak the truth. Hey, I know not everybody knows much about your story, and you may think your performance and your presentation is covering the deal for you. But people can smell the smoke.
Wow.
They can smell the smoke.
Yeah.
You think you got it covered, they can smell it.
Yeah.
It's leaking. There you go. Do
good.
something about that.
Right.
And I'm thinking of the men listening to you and me, Brad. Okay, you guys, how do I become a better man?
We need to talk about
a good man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you say? What was your experience?
I think, first of all, once again, and I've talked about this on numerous podcasts, men have to look at themselves and their behavior. Yeah. When we're angry, we have to figure out why. When we chase people, we have to understand why in relationships. When we're stubborn, when we're stingy, when we're not compassionate, we have to figure out why. And much of this that I've learned over the years, Craig, and I've had to learn the hard way to some degree, is that because of my relationship with my father that I've had to understand subconsciously how this has affected me and how I can break that mental cycle. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And in some cases, for many men, it may require therapy.
Yes.
And I'm all for that if that helps, because therapists can get in and help dig some of this out and create strategies, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's psychotherapy, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever it may be, can have different forms of therapy that can help a guy especially bring this to the forefront and kind of figure that. So the first thing I think is you got to understand who you are. And I think understanding who you are means you have to go back into your childhood and understand what that looked like.
Peel away the layers of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, exactly the same thing. Find someone else. Find someone else who can walk that story through with you. It may be a very, very good, trusted, insightful, honest friend.
Oh, sure.
Hey, what do you see about me around my wife? What do you notice? Or with my kids? Or me, when another guy shows up, whatever it is, would you be honest and honestly loving enough to tell me what you see? Because I would like to know, how do I come across? I'd like to be healthier. And a therapist or counselor, someone who is particularly experienced and insightful in that arena, wow, what a gift that can be.
Well, that's a great point, because, at times you can fool a therapist. You can tell a therapist what you think he or she wants to know. But with a friend who knows you and says, you can ask a friend, do I appear needy to you? Do I appear angry and belligerent? Do I appear negative to you?
Yeah.
Am I not fun to be around? Tell me what you see in me.
Yeah, yeah. Even here's a list of adjectives, 12 adjectives, 20, whatever it is, add descriptions of what people are like: courageous, compelling, insightful, needy,
Right.
angry, short-tempered, whatever. A list. Hey, buddy, circle five, that you think, you see that in me. And it can be upside or downside. Circle 5. What do you see in me? And can we talk about that? Wow, that could be a gift.
That'd be huge. I think number 2, Craig, you have to figure out what your values are. You really do. I mean, nice men who you ask, what are your values, and can't give you that.
Right.
That's a starting point that you need to figure that out pretty quickly. Also, what's your boundaries? I mean, you have to look within your own soul and say, what am I going to accept in life and what am I not? What am I going to accept from people and what won't I accept from people? And how will I handle this? I think we have to discover our boundaries as well. But I think if men worked on the issues you talked about, understood about who they are and the values, their character, their being at the core, that would help tremendously.
I think so.
That would help tremendously.
And often it takes a friend or a loving, honest wife that we're willing to listen to show the mirror, to let us say, hey, here's what I see. I love this about you. Mm-hmm. I would love to see you grow in this arena. Wow, would I love to see that. What a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just share this with you and kind of in closing. So every now and then I'll have, around the fire pit out back, I'll have 6 to 8 guys come over. We smoke cigars and drink scotch. And
nice.
Sometimes we drink a little too much scotch.
When am I invited next?
Next time. I promise you can come next time. But anyway, it's always interesting to me as I observed human behavior, the ones that appear to look to me to be more, I would say, good men, and some of those that have some type of, I don't know, nice guy syndrome to them. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of characteristics I noticed, first of all.
Good.
The good guys are the ones that are not self-deprecating, but they're willing to laugh at themselves.
Good.
They have enough confidence to do that in a way that brings everybody together, and it's all in good fun and good time. Yeah. And I think, secondly, the good men are the ones that are willing to be vulnerable and say, here's some struggles that I've gone through with each other. Here's some problems I've had. This is kind of some things I've dealt with, and be strong enough in themselves to say, we're not perfect men. We've got to do better. And I think we can help each other out. I think the nice guy is constantly looking for, what are you going to think of me, Craig, if I say that? What are the other boys going to think of me if I say that? How am I going to look to this group? I may be emasculated.
I learned that as a public speaker over a few years. It took me a while to learn because by my personality, I'm a performer and I'm also a recovering perfectionist. So I try to knock the ball out of the park in whatever arena it is, including public speaking. By my personality, I was extremely resistant to reveal any vulnerability, any weakness, tell a story that, wow, Craig did that? Very resistant to that. Over time, I got enough messages from other men who were good men, willing to speak up and say, Craig, I just want to let you know, I love your teaching, love listening to you, always like your stories. When you grab me is when you reveal something that's a weakness in you that you struggle with.
Vulnerable.
That's when you got me, when you were vulnerable. Oh, okay.
Great stuff, Craig.
Yeah, thanks.
I can't thank you enough for being here today.
I'm so glad.
I appreciate the insight that you have with working with men. It's been fantastic. And I can tell you firsthand, I benefited from your teachings.
Thank you, Brad.
It's been wonderful. And I hope, if anything else, I hope this podcast helped. There's 3 things I have in this podcast. And Riley knows that. I hope men learn something, number 1. Number 2, I hope there's something men can ponder and think about. Even if they don't agree with you and I, at least give us some thought.
Sure.
And third, my hope is that men can walk away and say, there's a good point there. I should probably work on that. Good. If I can accomplish those 3 things, then I've done what the podcast is supposed to do.
You're doing that. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Oh, it's great to have you.
It's really an honor.
Thanks, Craig. Thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy.
For those of you, thank you very much for listening to the podcast today. We would love for you to subscribe, like, and make a comment. That helps the podcast move forward. But I want to thank Craig once again for being here. Messages for men, and men, have a great day. Take care.